Of the Inkster City Council. Today is Wednesday, May the 31st, 2023, and the time is 6:13 p.m. Before we get started, Reverend Williams, prayer, please. Reverend Williams, prayer, please.
Let us pray. Father God, we come no other way but lean on your everlasting love. We thank you for waking us up this morning. We thank you for life, health, and strength. Father, we conduct this budgetary meeting. We ask that you guide us in the right way that we need to go. In the name of Jesus, we pray, amen.
Amen. All right, for pledge of allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Yes. Councilmember Williams.
Here.
Councilmember Washington.
Here.
Councilmember Watley. Councilmember Chisholm.
Here.
Councilmember Shaw. He's excused. Mayor Pro Tem Howard.
Here.
And for the record, Mayor Wimberly.
Here. Approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Your second.
Second.
Moved and properly second in discussion. Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Ayes have it, motion carries. We do have one order of action. Madam Clerk, under new business, please.
Consider approval of street closure or block party request for a charity event giveaway on Harrison between Beach and Carlisle on Sunday, June 4th, 2023, between the hours of 1 p.m. and 6. Darius Pringle is the applicant.
Motion, please.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Your second.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, then. Mr. Green, come on before the podium. And just for the record, so we're all on the same page, per the charter, we should have had a public hearing May the first meeting in May, and then approval of the agenda by the second meeting in May. Happenstance, we're here today, just series of events that happened, unfortunately, getting us to this particular hour. However, looking at what's before us as it relates to just the full budget overall is not totally complete on how we normally do it as it relates to reviewing the budget. However, I know Mr. Green's been working tirelessly with the staff, each of the staff members, also too with the state of Michigan as it relates to our deficit elimination plan, making sure that we're lining up as it relates to our numbers. However, as we're looking at the book that's before us today as it relates to comparison to what we've seen in the past, we typically get a little bit more information. So Mr. Green, if you could just dive into that a little bit, because as it relates to the water rates and other activities as it relates to our overall expenditures and scales, fee scales, all of those things are not here in this present in this book.
Right, yeah. So I apologize, first of all, for not having that information. That comes from Plant Moran. And tonight, it was the assumption that this meeting was just a workshop to try to figure out what we wanted to do with our general fund budget going forward for this next fiscal year. So I didn't get that information from them, but I can call them tomorrow and have them send over the water rates and things of that nature. So that's why I don't have that.
Go ahead.
Water rate, not rate. Yeah.
But that's why I don't have them.
together. They have to meet with me. I have to say, okay, before it comes to.
Oh,
So
okay.
what's the delay on that? Is it, the water rates coming from the county or from Leva or what's that?
So that's, no, you see, you're gonna get our budget, after you have the top of this, but.
Oh.
It's an outcome country.
Okay,
Because of the water rate.
okay. So you saying we won't see that until,
I'll check with Heidi, but we probably will have it for the, I don't want to speak for them about either the second meeting this in June or the first meeting in July.
Mhm.
But it's probably gonna be the second meeting in June, but we need to go into effect the first of July.
well, it has to be, by the state, we have to have an approved budget.
It's a budget, all by itself, just like it was last year, previous years, the water rates are all by itself. The
Mhm.
whole water budget, because it's so long and complex.
Mhm.
With all the projects, that's like $70 million.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so general fund is usually approved, street, local major, all the smaller budgets, they're not set aside for me,
Mhm.
the water rate. For that particular reason.
Okay, that's understandable as it relates to just, as I showed you, Mr. Green, in our previous budget books. I see you have activity, that's the activities from last year's budget as you were trying to explain to me.
Yeah, the activity is for this year, this current year's budget.
So for this current year's budget,
Yes,
and then you have a recommended budget that's coming from, of course, from the administration.
yes.
As it relates to the other line item that I was saying that was missing, as it relates to the approved budget for last year. That's kind of where we were getting at. So
Yeah.
that information should have been in here as well.
It will be like in the final thing. So yeah, I apologize for not having all of that, but again, I thought that this meeting was for us to go over the general fund. And again, being in the DEP, we're almost stuck to that. So we made minor adjustments to the DEP, but basically our budget that we're recommending for next year is the DEP.
So basically, the deficit elimination plan that we've basically signed into with this body,
Yes,
and that we would stick to each year from the state of Michigan.
yes,
So was approved deficit elimination plan. I know that you have been talking to them for the last few weeks as it relates to the budget, and I know that we have a meeting with them on Friday
yes.
here at City Hall. If anyone would like to join us for that particular meeting, you can. It's at 2 p.m. here. The State Treasury Department will be here. And I know that they've been working in conjunction with Mr. Green. Pretty much like once a month, I believe you guys meet and you guys talk. However, I've been in contact with them as well as it relates to just our progress and sticking to the DEP. And of course, the recommendation is to continue to cut where we can. We know that, really our biggest, the biggest expenditure that we have in the city is police and fire. It's just what it is. And recommendations from Plant Moran has been for us to look at going out to our citizen ship for a millage, public safety millage, to be able to offset police and fire because our pensions are continuing to rise. And that's really one of the biggest parts of, as we look at our budget, the cost that we can't control is the cost of our pension. Am I saying that correctly?
Yes,
Okay, so as it relates to tonight, council, we know that we need to have an approved budget. I think Vernon reminded me last year, we were really at the 10th hour last year. I really want to have this approved by the second meeting in June, even if we have to come back, special meetings in between. However, it's the privilege of this council and what you all want to do as it relates to, tonight and then moving forward. If the information that's before you is not adequate enough, I truly understand that. I apologize as it relates to you all not having that. But if you want to move forward and hear from Mr. Green and any questions that you may have, we can do that at this time. But we know that we will have a public hearing on Monday at Monday's meeting as well to review the budget and making sure that we have all that information tomorrow for you. So let's see from Plant Moran. You saying that they can,
well, being at the water rates, and normally when they send me the information, everything's done, but I can ask for everything except the water rates.
yeah, because, just as it relates to the master fee schedule.
Yeah.
We should have that if it's anything that we want to recommend. I know that you said we had really no amendments, and I kind of was trying to wrap my brain around
For the
that.
general fund, because we didn't go out outside our budget. There were some line items that were moved around within the budget, chief and the other chief, and they just maybe used one line item more than the other, but overall their budget was not needing to be amended. The budget needs to be amended once it's over and it's going to be spent. More is going to be spent than what's budgeted for that department. That didn't happen.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
I find that hard to believe. I mean, we always have budget amendments. I mean, even though if you're moving money around, we still have budget amendments. So the council can understand what's going on. And for that not being, we're not having one this fiscal year, is something wrong. We don't understand. I don't understand where this money is. I don't understand any of this. This to me is, I mean, we wasting money with this paper. I mean, the book is beautiful, but we need the figures in order to understand where we at. I mean, you can give us a recommended budget, but okay, I can say, yeah, it looks good, but where are we at now? Have they went over? We don't have any of that. But I think the budget amendments is critical for any municipality because it lets us know where we at. Even though they may have a budget line item that they can take from, but we still need to know that throughout the year. Everywhere, every quarterly, where do we used to do budget amendments? Every quarterly we came with a budget amendment to let us know where we at.
Yeah.
Okay.
And how, and where we need to stop spending it. We don't know any of that.
Can I speak, please?
Yes.
That's why I send you guys the reports every month. Every month, I send you guys a report of all of the budget for all the departments every month.
But council is supposed to approve budget amendments. Anytime you go over, that comes to us didn't we used to approve budget amendments?
Yes. Yeah, but when I'm hearing Mr. Green say, and I think it's actually a good thing unless it's something that we can prove that is not happening, is that they're not going over. So you don't have an amendment because you're not taking the budget is not going over. So you're not taking any money from your, well, if you have a surplus, then that would actually come from the surplus, unless I'm not understanding that right. And I know that it was one of the charges from this council not to go over, if anything, to reduce where we could spend.
Right, right.
So you wouldn't necessarily have an amendment, unless I'm not understanding what you're saying. But if it's no amendments to be had, you don't have them. That's kind of what I'm hearing, unless it's.
And again, I have the full report where I can send again, which I was planning on sending tomorrow anyway, because tomorrow is the first of the month and I send you guys a report every month. So tomorrow you'll have the same report in each department. You will be able to see if that department has went over their budget or not.
Are you all getting that?
I'm with, protest. I
So
don't
you-
understand anything that's been going on.
So you're not
And
getting
especially
those?
when we get this, we get the report, but
Okay.
as far as reading it he sends us something every month. He sends us the check register, which I go through, and I send all of the copies of them.
Yep.
And, but that doesn't tell us who's going over and who's going under.
I send you the revenues and expenditure, the financial reports.
Okay, so you send us the revenues and expenditures. This is the revenue and this is the expenditure. So we're supposed to know from that who's going over.
Well-
You are the treasurer, not us.
And that's why every time I send you something, I also send a note in red marks, green marks, and I explain that these line items in red are running over. The ones in yellow are trending to run over. The ones in green have not been spent yet. And I also say in that same email that the departments may not be over in their budget. Some line items may need to be watched, but their overall budget is still intact. I mentioned that in my emails.
Once again.
Is that not enough
I'm not.
information?
I'm
I'm
not,
just,
I'm not a treasurer. I look at those things and I go, okay, but then I look at this. It says that we're $3 million in the hole.
Yeah, I can explain that. That's from me taking time to actually go through the entire city's budget. And what I saw was that the fixed revenues, those things that we can count on, and I did explain this in an email to you guys in a paragraph form, that the fixed revenues that you're bringing in are $3 million less than your fixed expenses. So your expenses that you're obligated to pay, salaries, contracts, things of those nature, are $3 million more than your property taxes, your other revenues that you can count on. That's what I sent to you. So you have a structural deficit, a structural budget problem. You can't cover fixed expenses with variable revenues. You have to have fixed revenues cover fixed expenses. $3 million structural deficit. Yes. That's not what it means. It means that you're using variables like grant money, property sales to make up that 3 million, which isn't a good model.
Property sales that we have that equates to $3 million.
What do you mean? No, the property taxes are your fixed revenue, but your grants, like your cops grant, your bulletproof vest grants, your fire grants, your property sales from.
You counted on anything.
I know that. That's why I sent you that report.
So
That's why I sent you the report.
So basically, and just as he pointed to the cops grant, for instance, each year, it's about 500,000 each year from the grant. So once that grant runs out, then where are you gonna cover the cops at? It was the same thing that we were dealing with the fire department. When we had those 28 firefighters and 10 of them was under a grant, or 7 or something like that was under a grant. And we kept paying for those folks.
Okay,
So what he's trying to do now is actually kind of correct that by basically saying that we need to, again, as it relates to the budget itself, be at what we know we're going to get, state shared revenue. We know we're going to get that, you know? So really,
So,
everything else we should be cutting.
but, in the past, every year, they told us we need to cut.
And we have been.
What
We've
has
been
been
cutting.
cut specifically?
Mm.
What departments have been cut?
I can get you a list. I'll give you a list of that on Monday. Yeah, because every year, I mean, we've been doing cuts. I mean, the fire department alone, we went from 28 firefighters to what we at now.
Okay, I need that list too.
Yeah.
And because,
Yeah, we've been cutting everywhere.
okay, well, I don't think I've seen that, but it might be a church site on mine, but I wanna see specific
Mhm.
that, you know, and it's the same way with the deficit elimination plan. I was sent that and stuff, but it doesn't tell you specifically what has been eliminated.
Mhm.
What aspect of the deficit has been eliminated?
Okay. With the approved DEP, you're saying? From the state?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the deficit elimination plan started, I think in 2 years ago. We had to redo it. But what they're trying to do is just eliminate the overall deficit, and they give you 5 years to do it. So what happened was, after the first year, the numbers didn't come in like they were supposed to, so they made me redo the deficit elimination plan. So that plan is it's a 5-year plan, it's not a 1-year plan. So you're trying to eliminate your deficit over the course of 5 years.
But in order for me to understand it, and I'm like Barton, math is hard, okay? I want to understand that this was taken away from this, which resulted in this.
Mhm.
That's what I need. I can't do the treasury thing.
So what I'll do is, what
I
she's,
need to know that this was taken away from this budget, and this is the amount of money that we saved as a result.
Right.
so she wants to see like the original budget compared to the DEP and see what's been reduced.
And what exactly is our fund, what percentage of our fund balance do we have? Because there is a formula where we're supposed to keep a certain percentage in our fund balance.
We've been talking about that for
It's not?
10
Yeah,
years.
so let me just give you an example. I've looked at 4 different cities similar to ours.
You what?
Looked at 4 different cities similar to ours in population. I looked at Garden City with 3. I looked at Garden City, I looked at Romulus, and I looked at Southgate. Romulus has a $10 million fund balance. Where they got that money from, I don't know, but it's there. They operate just like us. Right now, they're operating at a $790,000 deficit, meaning that they're spending $790,000 more than they're bringing in right now. But they have this $10 million fund balance that they can pull money from. Give you another one. What was the other city that I mentioned? Garden City has $10 million in their fund balance. They're running right now at an $8,000 deficit. So they're spending $8,000 more than they're bringing in. But because
Figures compared to what
I'm
we
just
see.
trying to get to a point here. But because they have a $10 million fund balance, they can pull from that. And then Romulus, Southgate. Southgate only has an $880,000 fund balance, so they have hardly any fund balance at all. And they were running right now at $323 above their expenditures, so barely making
$323.
yeah. So they're
$323.
23 above their revenues, above their expenditures. So everybody's barely making it right now.
Okay, you know,
But-
those stories are wonderful, but what Garden City does and what Romulus does and what, who was the other, Southgate? I'm interested in what Inkster does. Now, you said you don't know where that money came from. Did you ask them?
Well, I've heard this council say before, we need to look at other cities and find out what they're doing.
And?
That's why I looked at other cities.
But
And so let me explain
no.
to you, property taxes, they've got a lot more property taxes coming in than we have. That's one thing. And I can tell you another thing, is that we pay 200% of our property taxes to police and fire. 200%. The other cities, they don't even pay 100%, meaning that they don't pay police and fire anything more than what they can bring in property taxes. We're paying police and fire double what we bring in property taxes.
From what I understand, and Chief, help me out here. When we went through negotiations, weren't you all saying that you couldn't keep people because we pay so little?
Yes. Salary. Yes.
Yes. So.
Yeah,
if
they're
they
paying
don't
less.
pay,
Oh, it's less pay, but because their property taxes are more than ours. I can pull it up on the screen and show you. We're bringing in about 4 million a year. They're bringing in 18 million.
Mr. Green, me and you kind of had that conversation,
Yeah,
I
I'm
told you.
confused.
Like I told you, this is about Inkster. I get to compare, I get the comparisons and all of that, but this, especially when we're talking about the budget, it's about Inkster. I could care less about what anybody else is doing unless they're gonna bring a formula here for us to be able to make some money instantly.
Well, that's not a good formula.
No, but I'm just saying, I get what you're saying. That's not, what you're doing right now is not helping what we're trying to get done to right now. You know what I mean? So what you're trying to do is compare us to somebody else and what they're doing or whatever. That's neither here nor there right now. So the question was, and that's a good question, as it relates to our fund balance. What is our fund balance right now?
Well, we don't have a fund balance, and that's what I'm trying to explain to you, is that if you're spending 8 million on police and fire, but you're only bringing in 4 million in taxes, you're eating up your fund balance.
We already know that.
Well,
We've been-
that's
we've
why you
been-
don't have a
we've
fund
been-
balance.
We've been knowing that.
Well, I
So-
thought we had to maintain a certain balance or else it would trigger an emergency manager.
Right.
No. So, no, and then we had that conversation and we had it with Plant Moran as it relates to having a certain amount of fund balance that you needed to be fiscally responsible. And you should, right? But what we're saying here is that really the issue is we need to cut personnel. get back to 2015. That's the issue. And we've been saying it every single year. So we're taking money from here, a little bit from here, a little bit from here. We're trying to keep police and fire. We really can't compare to any of them. Detroit just raised the roof as it relates to, people coming on in Detroit. And we got police talking about leaving now, trying to get to Detroit. The fire chief can't keep people because we pay so little, or we really can't afford to pay them at all. And really, when Mr. Green he's trying to be fiscally responsible, saying that the structural deficit and understanding that is that the money that we're bringing in is 12.5 or whatever it is on our fixed costs, but we do get another 3 million to cover our revenues. So he's saying that, but really we're depending on different grants like the COPS grant, the SAFER grant, community development block grants and all this other stuff to be able to help us to fund really our general fund budget. And we shouldn't be doing that. But at the same time, if we go back to 2015, and I believe everybody was here, at least in the community, then you're talking about police making $15 an hour with no benefits. So that's what we're talking about. Now, if that's what we have to do, and again, we're bringing in the state treasury on Friday. I would, each one of you, please come and we can sit and we can talk to them about exactly what we're dealing with. Every time I'm in Lansing, I'm telling the governors, I'm talking to the governor, talking to the state reps, and anybody else that'll listen, is that our state share revenue is too small for our community. We don't get enough to be able to cover our expenditures, so our citizens feel safe and have those amenities that any other community have. We're just not getting enough. Mr. Green's a numbers guy. I get it, man. We go back and forth all the time. But at the same time, what he's saying is true. What he's saying is true. We get enough. So when he's saying 3 million, we're not 3 million in the hole because we get all that in grants and all that other stuff. So we get that. But those are not like, it's this year, next year. So it's like we're every year trying to raise some more money. Every year, we're always looking for money to be able to just stay fast with what we have, because the reality is that we cannot afford police and fire. That's the reality. So if you guys want to deal with that, with the reality, we're the body to deal with that. But then what do we tell our citizens? What do we tell our police and our fire? What do you get when you get a dent situation? And everybody know about the dent situation. When you're paying a dude $15 an hour, that should never been hired by any police in the country, but we hire him here because that's all we can get. And we had a $3 million lawsuit. So it's all of that, but we are responsible. So I'm with you 100%, whatever you guys want to do. Looking at this, and as we're looking at just this line, I just want to just finish this thought. Mr. Green has the activities as of 6:30, the activities for all of our accounts, the monies that we brought in and the monies that we spent. So all of that is in this line item. And then you have what we're recommending as it relates to us being able to cut and balance or whatever it is. And then we do have a little bit money left at the end, but we know that it's really not reality, because we do need to do deeper cuts. The little small cuts that we do, like I can just name off a few cuts. I mean, planning and economic development, we went from 170,000 to like 140,000. We went from maintenance, where we were doing like maintenance on vehicles, it was like 300,000. We went to like 80,000 or something like that, fixed cost, So we're saving a few dollars here and a few dollars there, but the biggest cost is police and fire. So it's gonna be up to this body. We gotta buckle up. I don't know what to do, but that's what I think Larry and Eric is gonna say to us when they come up Friday and meet with us. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
For me,
Mhm.
tonight's meeting, I mean, I'm getting, it's benefiting. But for me, I can't even look at this.
I got
Because
you.
it's inaccurate. So I haven't.
Okay,
And I'm gonna be honest with you, because I go through the budget with a fine tooth comb before I can get here.
yes, ma'am.
I have nothing.
Okay,
So for me, even if you're moving money around or whatever, if somebody asks this council,
Mm.
what have you moved around? We're gonna say, we don't move around nothing. You
Mhm.
have to tell council what you're doing,
Mhm. I totally agree with
whether
that.
it relates to whatever. But
Mhm. So
I
you're
have
saying
been
that,
through many of the treasurers, and this is unacceptable.
so
And I'm
what-
just gonna tell you that.
I appreciate you saying that, but what
And
you-
I hate that we wait, hate that, obviously he's doing the best that he can do. But when it comes down to this, I'm looking at activities. Activities should be over here, not the end. You recommend the budget should be to your right. Activity should be here, should be in the amended budget. What do we have? So how can we approve revenues? Well, we don't even know where they at, who's going on, who's not getting the revenues that they say they're getting.
Mhm. I agree with that.
We don't have that.
That's
So how-
100%.
So how can we actually just look at this book?
Yeah.
Because it's, to me, it's nothing. I have not looked at it. And 90% of the time, if you watch the world news or whatever, police and fire kills any municipality. They got the biggest chunk of general fund. That's nothing new,
Mhm.
but we need to know.
Mhm.
So when we ask you what our fund balance is, that's what I'm looking for. Where we at?
Mhm.
So in the police and fire, I know gas then went up, so I know they went over in gas. I'm
Mhm.
looking at the reports.
Mhm.
But when they continue to go over what we approved in last year's budget, anything that goes over, whether or not if you can find money within it to move around, we still need to know there's a budget amendment.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
So I don't understand that. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna dismiss myself tonight because I got a headache we need to have this.
Yeah,
In
let's
order
not
to,
dismiss it. Let me finish. And we'll do
Okay.
it, okay.
okay,
I totally agree with you 100%. So as it relates to what I showed you, that's what I need.
I got you.
So basically, what this council needs from you is, number one, the budget from last year. So you will have that in a line item, right? And it'll say, this is the approved budget, and then these are the activities. Now, as it relates to the amendments, any monies, because what I'm hearing Mayor Pro Tem say is that it don't make a difference if it didn't go over. If you did move, say, from uniforms to maintenance in whatever budget, even if it didn't go over, the council should know about that.
That's just not what it says in the charter. The charter says.
I get that. I understand that, but we dealing with what we want to see.
Got you.
You know, this is the councilmatic body.
And that's what I
okay
send
with
every month.
respect.
So every month, when you
But
get
we
those,
ain't worried about that. Just take direction right now. I'm not trying to go back and forth with you right
no,
now.
I'm not saying that. I'm
Let
just
me
saying,
just give you direction on what I want. to
Okay.
see, Okay, so as it relates to that, now with that also too, everything that I showed you in that book from Pat Moran, and me and you will talk about that a little bit more tomorrow, the next day, so we can get that.
Yeah.
We should have that in a packet to the council,
got
so
you.
they can have it
Mhm,
come Monday's meeting.
mhm.
Because before Monday, they should have it, they should really have it like now.
Right, no
But-
problem.
But what we want to do then in turn is make sure that me and you on the same page with it.
Right.
Because I got the same book that the Mayor Pro Tem has, actually
Gotcha.
from last year.
Mhm.
And then we make sure that we go through it together.
Oh, yeah,
And
for
then
sure.
deliver that to them.
Well, I wasn't here. I had an emergency, so you didn't get the book that I typically put together, because I put together the books together last year. I wasn't here to put them together this time, but I'll get it together.
Yeah, that's what we want to see. So with that being said, council, let's rest. Let's rest for this evening unless you all just need to ask any questions. Later, so go ahead, please.
I don't know what the direction is being given out and what Mayor Pro Tem had discussed,
Yeah.
but can we also get a PCS report, the personnel cost summary?
That's it. That's what we were talking about.
I mean, that one pager as with,
Yeah.
I mean. things you
Mayor Pro
guys are
Tem, I'm
talking
sorry,
about,
let me pop your book.
oh,
out.
okay. And
Pop your
also
book-
too,
pop your book out.
Pat Moran normally gives us a graph,
Right,
show us, actually where
Right.
percentage, where we at.
yep, we'll make sure you have all that. So this is basically everything that we'll be,
And then
that we'll be going through with the cost summary.
Okay.
Only thing you'll be missing right off is the water rates, because we know that we can't Yes, provide that for you, but this is all the cost summary, all of that stuff.
Fee schedule.
Yeah, all the fee schedule, so all that stuff will be in there,
Okay.
you know? So you have all the cost summaries, all of that stuff, schedules and all of that, okay? So you guys will have all of that, and in that way, we can get right into it. So if we need to, worst case scenario, in between Monday's meeting and the 15th, you know, we can have a discussion, you know, but we're gonna have a public hearing on Monday as it relates to this anyway. So by that time, hopefully, we can get that information to them.
So tomorrow you will have each and every one of you will have that comparison, that amended budget, that year-to-date balance, that information that you're looking for, you'll have that tomorrow.
Yep, but also too, we want to have, so what you want to do too, because this is very important, and you're gonna have to go through this and probably work with each of your department heads and probably get them to help you too, as it relates to what Mayor Pro Tem was requesting. Now, I know that we didn't necessarily go over in those budgets, but if any monies was moved,
It'll say that in the report. So when you get the report and it has the amended budget column, it'll say 10,000.
Yep.
And then if you look at the year-to-date column that says 12,000,
Uh-huh.
then that means you went over 2,000.
okay, all right, so we want to make sure, maybe you put it in
Red,
red or
like
whatever
I
it is
normally do.
within
Yeah.
this, within that line item for that.
Got you.
Okay, is it anything else? Anything else? Okay,
One-
Yes, ma'am,
I'm sorry, one more
please,
thing. And
go
then
ahead.
that way, when we do have a meeting, we don't have to go by budget line items, because the council would then rest in the
Oh,
book.
yeah.
And then we come to you and tell
Yep.
you what we, you know,
What you want
explain
to see,
things.
yep, I got
But you
you.
know, we don't have to go through, because each budget line item is not affecting us. It's just something certain one.
Gotcha,
So then that way we can come to you and say, look, this is what I have a problem with.
okay,
And then you can go through that,
Yes,
because
ma'am.
we don't really necessarily have to go through each budget line item unless
Gotcha.
they have problems with it. That's
gotcha,
me. I
yeah,
don't, you know.
gotcha. That
So-
was just something
so-
that I
And then
had.
that way, and that's good, but it
Hold on a
just
second.
takes up too much time.
I totally agree.
So the hopes were, when I was sending those out, the hopes were that you were looking at the reds.
Oh, we were looking at them, but it's still no, you know, there's no explanation of why, you know, what happened, why they went over.
And
It's
that's
just, it's
when you
just a
would get
lot
that
that
information.
hasn't been explained to us. I mean, you can send us those things and I go through them and I go through them thoroughly. But I just stopped asking because I wasn't getting what I was. looking
And so when
for.
you get it and you see it's red, meaning it's over, I don't necessarily know exactly why they went over, but
But as a treasurer, that's your job to know that.
That's correct.
That's your job to know where every piece of funds, money going in and out here. And
My
if
job-
we receive thousands of dollars, then we need to see a budget amendment. This is what we received to offset that. We have to do it like that.
okay, again, when they spend, I'm aware of it. And I make you aware of the expenditures, but why Chief Ratliff wants to use this line item more than the other, he can actually explain that better.
Not his job.
I
That's not his
can,
job.
because-
That's your job. It's his job to tell you, and it's your job
Yeah,
to
you
tell
forward
us.
to us.
That is your job.
I
That
agree.
is your job.
Okay, so
Yeah.
again, I will get the information from the department heads, and when we have our meetings, every time we have like council meetings, then I'll have to put it on the agenda so I can have time to let you guys know that these are the different departments that went over and these are the different line items that they went, this is why. So I'll put that on the agenda for me to explain that going forward.
Yeah, you just do that in your treasurer's report. Yeah,
I have a question.
go ahead, ma'am.
These expenditures that we're talking about from these various departments, who authorizes? I thought we had a spending policy.
Yeah, for sure.
And they certain, and this, if someone that is, even if it's in their budget and they want to utilize it, depending on the amount, they would still have to have some sort of authorization from administration or somewhere, wouldn't they?
If it's over.
If it's over.
If it's over. Yeah, so this is, so the budget, once you approve it, you approve a bottom line budget. So you approve 14 million or whatever it is for us to spend on whatever expenditures it is. So in the police department, really the chief, once his budget is say 3 million or $4 million, as long as he's staying within that and he doesn't have anything to go, like he doesn't go over that $1,
So you don't have to know what specifically that.
You should.
was.
you should for
Yeah,
sure.
I think you should.
Yeah, you
because
should for sure, just to see, because if something's running
have
over.
a party and invite all the good-looking girls. I mean, that's something that. I'm just saying. You gotta know that. As long as it doesn't go over, you're saying as long as he doesn't go over, that's okay.
No, that's what,
And that's not.
that's what the law says. That's what the law says, and if you read your charter as it relates to the
But
budget itself,
as
that's what.
the governing body in the legislature, we can certainly request certain things that we would like to have happen. Just, I mean, you're asking us to okay this and okay that and okay the other with no control.
We're not trying to do that.
No.
I think
So-
it's-
so
I
when
think
you-
Brenda's actually sent you more stuff than any.
Yeah, so when you get it,
I don't think so.
when you get it in red, you have the opportunity to ask questions. When you get it and you know it's running over, you got the opportunity to say, I want to ask chief. That's what you say. I want to ask chief. If you see there's a line item that's in red in police and you want to ask why, then you have the right to say, hey, chief, I want to know why this line item is over. But if you want me to bring it to you and ask them first, then I'll do
That's
that.
how it should go.
But I have sent things, I have sent a list of things to my colleagues as well as you, asking how all this money is being, and I haven't gotten replied, okay? I go through those lists and say, who is this? Why is this? You know, because there were several areas besides police and fire that we were, like our legal. I mean, we got like 4 or 5 different legal teams we're paying. You know, so these are things that I'm expecting answers from, but once you ask and you don't get it, you just stop asking.
Well, I hate that, but okay, go ahead.
Question I have, I guess I have to agree with, Councilwoman Howard. That we don't have actual figures.
Yeah, you do have actual. That line that says year-to-date activity, that's the actual.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you saying is that these are the actual figures for 2022.
For 22, 23, the one we're in now, the year we're in now, yeah.
Yeah, so that's the actual money that we spent today.
And I have to ask a question, well, I need to ask a question.
Okay.
The question is, we had a meeting, and there was one conversation that we had about each department keeping up with the, one of the things that we talked about in there was each department keep up with the amount of budget that they have.
Mhm.
Okay. So where I'm confused at, I'm looking at what, $500,000
For what?
the deficit.
Where do you see that at?
Let me show you, maybe you explain it to me. Okay. I'm not a budget expert, but I do know this was in the black and this was in the red right here.
It's like, yeah, that's this year. That's this year's.
Okay, so you 500,000
That
this
ain't
year.
5, that's an 8. It's 860. I don't say 5, that's an 8. That's because you got like 2.4 million that you haven't gotten the state share revenues yet because your audit ain't came
Okay,
in.
so what you're saying is the reason why that figure is there now, this is what I just want to get clear.
Mhm.
Reason why that $800,000 is there because we haven't received any money from something.
Well, there's a lot of money we haven't received because when your audit is late, you don't get your state share revenue. So once we get that audit in, that's like 2 million that we haven't gotten yet.
And we need to actually have them come before us because I mean, we've talked about the audit and why the audit is late. And, every time, you tell me it's because of Raymond. And we've given them everything that we're supposed to give them on our end. And even when I talk to Plant Moran, they'll say the same thing. It's the auditors. But again, to the councilman's point, you're not even able to put in the monies that we supposed to have received or should receive because the audit hasn't been given to the state.
No, that's for this year's budget. Yeah, that money ain't came in yet because the audit ain't came exactly. And Eric and them, they're aware. We had a meeting 2 weeks ago with Plant Moran, myself, Raymond, the state, and we asked them flat out, what's going on with the audit?
But we had, and I don't even put off.
No, you're right. Go
We've
ahead.
had millions and thousands of conversation about the auditors and things that we say wasn't right when we got to the point, okay? Okay, and I didn't even talk with the mayor about putting out a bid for new auditors.
Yeah, I actually spoke with Alan Young.
Okay, and so evidently it's something that the auditors, if they're holding back, if the reason why this is running like it is, if they holding back, if they hold back some money, they pull it back, the state does that a lot of times with the auditors, okay? But bottom line is, what they plan, this hurts us,
No doubt about that.
so, and it looks bad.
Okay,
So you said they'll be here Friday?
The state will.
The state will, yeah, that's what we need to see, state,
The state will be here.
what time,
At 2:00.
2:00 here?
Yeah.
okay, you're saying this continually happens with the auditors, is that what you're saying?
No, I've only been here 2 years. This is the second year this has happened, yes. And I'm home.
That's all the time as far as you're concerned, if there's your 2
Yeah.
years. But I'm saying, do we have any type of mechanism in place that penalizes them for not doing it? If we've given them everything they need and they still are not doing the job in a expeditious fashion or manner, what is the penalty?
Yeah, I think that has to come from this body.
Well,
What
the
is-
thing is, first of all, as long as it's in technically before June 30th and they're in communication with the state, then it's really not a violation, technically. Now, do we have something in the contract? I didn't do the contract with them to say, hey, if you don't have it done by 12/31, which when it's due, then we get to do this. Probably should have had something
Maybe
like that.
that's something that we need to look into, because we can't keep being penalized for something that's not our responsibility.
Exactly, I agree, 100%.
So, do we work with our attorney on that? Do we look at their contract and work with our attorney on something like
We
that?
should, yes. We should,
So,
definitely.
Hey, we holding up our money so we can pay for it. That's a lot of money.
right, so then if the auditors are the ones that are responsible for this lack, then obviously they've gotten away with it for the last 2 years without any consequences.
Yeah, they need to
Yeah, they
come
need to come
before us.
before us and find out why it's being.
And we need their contract. I
Yeah,
haven't seen the
they need to
contract.
come.
Any of you all seen the contract? Was anybody here when Raymond? when we
I
brought
can, I
Raymond
probably
in?
can go dig
What
it
you
up.
talking
in my
about
file.
the auditors?
Yeah, the auditors, Raymond, when we brought them in.
Yeah,
We
we
switched,
we'll had that discussion before
we
about.
switched from Alan Young to them, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, that's how long,
And they work with the state.
but we ain't never had a late audit.
What's the name?
Raymond.
Yeah, they get later and later each year.
Each year,
Yeah, but we need to bring them in
Definitely.
because they're costing us money.
definitely agree with
And
that.
then once that money comes in, if it doesn't come through this fiscal year, then we're gonna have to count it again as the next fiscal year. And then that means we're gonna have to have a budget amendment because it's coming in after the fact.
That's right.
Yes, that's why the budget amendments is important. So we know what's coming in after the fact.
I agree. Go ahead.
Okay, now we know they always late for us trying to get us to audit the budget. So the reality is right now, they got it here now, and I'm sorry, I thought it was 800 something. I looked at, it was, 500 something, it's 800 and some $1,000, okay? Now, but you're indicating, what I need to know is, that's a lot of money to be counting for a deficit, but you said that it's not really that part of the deficit.
Well, no, I mean,
Explain to me how it's gonna change from the 800 some thousand.
well, when we get that 2 million, that's gonna
Okay,
help.
so other words, what I'm hearing you saying, I'm just trying to clear myself. The auditors held back over $2 million.
No, the auditors didn't hold back nothing. The auditors have to complete the audit in order for us to get our money from the state. Until the auditors turns in the audit to the state, we don't get the share revenue. So they're not holding our money. They don't have our money. They're preventing us from getting it from the state until they complete the audit.
Okay, so other words,
What is the excuse for
The
why you
state-
don't have the audit?
There really wasn't one. We'll have that conversation with the state when we meet with them on Friday.
Friday,
That's why we need the attorney involved,
Because it's messing us up.
no doubt about that. See if you can pull that contract clerk if we have it on file. And if they don't, then reach out to them and tell them to send us their contract.
Okay. Oh, I can do that tomorrow. I got the contract.
Okay.
I
send
got
us-
the engagement letter. Yeah, from the last time that they
we need the
signed.
Contract.
And that was in 2014. When was Mark Studrive was here from 2013, 12?
Yeah, I asked him for the original contract.
Okay. All right, then, motion to dismiss. For a second,
Second.
any discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Meeting adjourned. All right, guys. We got some work to do, let's get to it. Let's see if we can get the auditors out on Friday.